Okay, so we're on Ayin Pei Gimel Amud Beis 83b1. In the Gemara, it's like what, the sixth line, the two dots. Im Kain Lama Kasef. So it's the bottom of the first paragraph in the art scroll on 83b1. So basically, we said if he writes, or we saw if he tells her, or if he writes that I don't have any din or dvarim with the payros or whatever, he still gets the payros. And if she dies, he still gets the inheritance. So what good does him saying this or writing this do? So he said the only thing it does is it gives her the right to sell it or give it away, and she has that right. But if she doesn't sell it or give it away, he can use the payros. And if she dies and hadn't sold it or given it away, and she dies, then he inherits it. So v'tema le mikomili salak nafshach. So why does why does he still get so much use out of this? And basically, the only thing she gets out of it is to write. Yeah, you have a ball. Yeah, to write if she dies. So Amar Abaye. So v'tema le mikomili salaktin afshach. So why doesn't she say to him, "You have voluntarily withdrawn yourself from from this. So why do you still get to use the uh why do you still get the payros? Why do you still inherit it if the wife dies? So Amar Abaye Yad Bal Hashtar Ala Tachtona. The person who has the star has the lower hand. So because this wife now has this document that the husband says, I'm not having dinner dvarim, she's the only thing that it's worth for is for the least the least possible thing. So the least possible thing for this was for her to sell it or give it away. So that's the only right that she has from it. The Amami Peri. But when it says I have no dinner dvarim, why do we say that he's only withdrawing the right for her that she can't sell it? Why don't we say that he's not going to take the fruit or the derivative income that the field generates? So Amar Abaye Butsina Ta Mikara. So it's better to take a small squash now before it becomes a big squash later. So he's willing to take a smaller thing now and not lose the whole thing later. So since so like waiting for this squash to grow into a big thing, so that's something that may not occur. So since the wife may not actually sell the thing, the husband's not so worried about actually selling it. But because in the meantime he could still be making this money from the derivative incomes from the fruit of the fields, he doesn't want to give that up. Aim Yerusha. So remember, there's three things that the Mishnah said. One thing is that he gets to keep the payros, the fruits or the derivative income that the field generates. The second thing is that he inherits if she dies, he inherits the field. And number three was her right to sell it. So so the Mishnah says he gives her the right to sell it. And we just asked, well, why don't we say that he's giving up his right to the payroll? So we just said he'd rather have something small now, even though he might be giving up something bigger later. So now we're asking about the third possibility. Why don't we say that maybe in his star he was giving up the right to inherit it if she dies first? So Amar Abaye says, Misa shchicha, mechir lo shchicha. To die is a common occurrence, but for her to sell it is not so common. When a person he's taking himself out of a certain right, he's only going to be taking out from something that's not common. He's not going to take himself out of the common situation. So the common situation is that if she dies first, he will inherit her. So we're saying that he will uh He doesn't want to give that possibility up. He's only going to give up the possibility of the unusual thing that you would actually sell it or give it away. Um, Rav Ashi Amar, Rav Ashi gives a different answer because what we just said was Abaye. Because when the husband wrote his claim, he said that I'm renouncing my claim from your property, but not. So because he used the word property, it means from the property itself, not from the peros, not from the fruit that it was going to develop. And and your property meant while it's your, and that excludes the case of after she dies, because after she dies, it's not going to be hers anymore. So according to Rav Ashi, the text of what he wrote, which is the first line of the Mishnah, with your property. So he's not giving up the peros because he didn't use that word peros. So therefore, it can't be talking about peros. And if she dies, it's not going to be her property anymore because he's going to inherit it. So therefore, the only case what he's giving up is if she would sell it or give it away. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Liolam Hoachal Peros. So Rabbi Yehuda says that even if he explicitly gave up the right to have the fruit, he could still use the fruit of the fruit, meaning the stuff that since he was relinquishing his portion in the fruit, we say that so now it's hers. But when she brings money into the marriage, she's going to have to buy some real estate with it. And so she buys a new field with it, and then he's going to be able to get the fruit from the new fields. Because he only wrote when he was relinquishing his rights to it, that was from the fields that she brought in when they got married. This is a later field, so that's not restricted to him.
It seems to be stretching.
Who?
It's the later field.
Well, no, because when they got married, she was bringing certain fields into the marriage. So he wrote her as this time the fields that you bring in, I'm not going to have anything to do with it, even with the payros. So that doesn't mean that if she would get more fields later, that statement or that document that he wrote doesn't affect later fields. The part where it gets a little tricky is that we learned in the 2 prakim ago that if she makes more money in the meantime, they have invested into buying more real estate. So even though he doesn't have benefit from the payros, but this is considered the payros of the payros, unless he wrote, I'm not going to have any benefit from the payros forever. Tanurabanan, Elohim payros, Elohim payros. So we had a brisa. What are the fruits of the field itself, and what are the fruits of the fruits? The derivative of the derivative. If she brought land into the marriage and it was an orchard and it would group fruits, Harehin peros, that's considered peros. Machar peros lakapayim karka. If he sold those peros and bought more land with that money, va'asasa peros, and that new field grew crops, harehin peros. Those are the fruits of the fruit. The new land would be owned by her, possibly. No, but these properties, Nichsim, look, she never gets the benefit of the fruit. She owns she's the owner, but the husband gets the payros. But it's still hers. Correct. But if she dies, then he could get that land. But again, when it gets bought, well, no, at this point, when he bought it, it's his land actually, because this is his land now, right? Because since he had right to the payros, this money is his. So when he bought the land, it's his land, not her land. This land is my land. Okay, Ibaylahu. So they asked, Rabbi Yehuda payros dafka, o dilma arolam dafka. So when Rabbi Yehuda says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the only way that he's relinquishing all of the payros forever. So the Mishnah said, "Ocha peros achiychtov dinu dvarim ainli b'nechsayich Ubeperosam ad olam. So is the key word in this, or the key phrase in that statement, is it ubeperosam? Wait, I skipped the line here. Is it ubeperosam, or is the key phrase ad olam? Forever, meaning even if I would, from the second field, then have fruit from that, and buy a third field, and then have fruit from that, and buy a fourth field. So is the ad olam the part that's the key phrase, or is it just the word periperos, o dilma travayo dafka, or you need both phrases? And the nafkamina would be if he didn't write all the phrases, all these clauses in the Mishnah, would Rabbi Yehuda still say if you had some of them, it's still valid, or do you need all of them to be valid, or you need one or the other to be valid? So im tim salomar periperos dafka, if you want to say that he definitely needs the phrase periperos ad olam lamali, then why does he have to say forever? Hakamash Milan. So that part of the Mishnah teaches us to kasula periperos, man to kasula ad olam dami. That once he writes periperos, it's as if he's writing forever. Ve'im tim salomar ad olam dafka, and if you say you always have to write forever, periperos lamali, why do I need to write the fruit of the fruit? Hakamash Milan. So the Mishnah is teaching us avagav the kasula periperos, even though he writes that he's giving up the fruit of the fruits, ikasavla ad olam in ilo lo. If he wrote forever, then it's forever, and if he didn't write forever, it's not forever. So according to this, if you wrote ad olam, so if to write periperos is necessary, then the Gemara is here saying you don't need to write ad olam. If ad olam is necessary, then you also need to write periperos. And if you say that you need to write both the fruits of the fruits and forever, tarti lamali, why do I need both of them? Tzricha, you need both. The kasavla periperos kasavla olam. If you wrote the fruit of the fruit, but you didn't write forever, have a mina periperos hudelo achel, I might say he's not allowed to eat the fruits of the fruits. Of a periperos achel. So that's only if the first field grew crops, he sold that crops, bought a second piece of land. So land number 2 had crops. That's the fruit of the fruit. But let's say he took the fruit from field number 2 and bought field number 3. That's periperos, the fruit of the fruit of the fruit. I might think that is okay. That if he only wrote periperos, he's only not allowed to eat the fruits of field number 2. But if he then bought a field number 3, that's fruit of the fruits of the fruits. That would be okay. Aval periperos achel. Excuse me. Have a mina periperos hudlo achel. Aval periperos achel. He could have the fruit of the third field. L'hachi itrach ad olam. Therefore, you have to write ad olam to show that no, even if it was the 10th field, he's not allowed to benefit from that. The ikasavla ad olam lo kasavla periperos. And if you wrote, I'm not going to have the peros forever, and he didn't write the fruit of the fruit, have a mina liolam a peros koi. We might think that he means that he's never going to have benefit from the peros, from these peros, but for any other peros he could. L'hachi itrach periperos. Therefore, he needed to write periperos. So the Gemara in this doesn't. The Gemara doesn't conclude, but there is a general rule that when the Gemara has in Tim Salomar like this, I think the Rambam always passing is like the last lashon. But the Gemara is just saying how whether you need one or both or all three, how we would interpret the clause, these different clauses. They had a question to understand the halacha in this Mishnah. If you're right, I'm not going to have any claim or anything to do with your property and with the fruit of the fruits. Is he allowed to eat the regular peros? Because he didn't mention peros itself. He only mentioned periperos. Mi pere salik navshe, mi pere lo salik navshe. Because of the way he wrote it, which is a little bit unusual, do we mean that that's very specific? He's only withdrawing his dealing with the fruit of the fruits, but from the original fruits he's not withdrawing. Odilma mikol mile salak nafshe, or he's he means the fruit of the fruits, but also the regular fruits also. So pshita mikol mile salak nafshe. So the Gemara says, well, it's simple that he's getting rid of any of his involvement with any of it. Because if he holds that he's withdrawing from the fruit of the fruit, so that would be if with the fruit from field number one that she brought with when they got married, they bought field number two and that had peros. So if he's only withdrawing from the peros of field number two, mi peros osake navshe, and he's not giving up the fruit from field number one, keva dachlu peros peros mehecha. If he already used the original fruit, how is there going to be any fruit of the fruit?
So if you take seeds from the first fruit normally,
Not necessarily seeds, but let's say it's an orange grove. So it doesn't have to be only trees that grow themselves. It could be other stuff that you plant. But let's say there's oranges. So let's say he made $100 from selling oranges. So he could spend $100 or whatever he wants. He can go on vacation. He could do whatever. But let's say with that $100 he bought another field. So now that field is an apple. There's some apple trees. So then if he sells the apples, he makes more money. So that those apples aren't from the original field because the original field was an orange grove. And now this is field number two, and these are apples. I'm just using oranges and apples so we see that there's a difference between the first field and the second field. So if he's not going to use the oranges, how is he going to have any money to buy an apple field? That's what it's asking. So clearly, he's relinquishing his getting the fruit from the first field also, from the orange field. But then they were asked, well, Tamech, according to that, Haditnan, our Mishnah said, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Liyolm Huocha Peros, he always eats the fruit of the fruit, so he could eat from the apple field. Kevan Dachal Tinhu, but if the wife is using it, Peros Mehecha, how is he going to get money from the field to buy the apple field, to buy another field? Ella b'deshaira. So it's a case where she didn't use all of the oranges. She used some of the oranges and left some of the oranges over. And then she bought the land with that. Hachanami b'deshaira. So let's say that the Gemara here is where the husband didn't use he didn't spend the $100 of the orange, the profits of the orange, to take a vacation or to buy a new couch, but maybe he bought a new field also. So it could be that he so the Gemara doesn't have an answer, but the point is that maybe the husband himself left over some of the fruit and he was using it from it. So therefore it's a case where he was benefiting from the first, and therefore when if the text that he used was, let's see, if the text that he used was, I'm not going to have the field itself or the fruit of the fruit, there could be an intermediate case where he used the fruit itself, but then bought an apple orchard with some of that extra money. So the question is, can he benefit from all of those different stages? So again, the question was, if he wrote, I'm not going to have anything to do with your property or the other peros, the question is, does that give him right to use the original peros from the orange tree? So we don't have it. The Gemara doesn't have an answer for this. So then two dots. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, the Mishnah said, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, if she dies, he will inherit her because he made a condition on what the Torah writes, and whoever makes a condition on what the Torah writes, the that stipulation is negated. Rav said, Halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, V'lo mitamei. We pass like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but not for his reason. My halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel v'lo mitamei. So what does it mean that we pass like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but not for his reason? Ilay halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel de Amar Imesa Yiras Shena. If, and he says the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Amar, that if she dies first, he inherits the field. V'lo mitamei, but not his reason. What does it have to be? The ilu Rabbi Shimon Gamliel savar masa masha kasu b'Torah to know about. Because his reason was if you make a condition against what the Torah says, that condition is negated. V'Rav savar to know kayim. So if Rav is arguing on his reason, that means Rav holds that you're allowed to make a stipulation against what the Torah says, because savar Yerushas abal d'Rabbanan. But Rav holds that since the husband inherits the field as only a din d'Rabbanan, the Chachamim asu chizuk l'divriyam yoser mishal Torah. The Chachamim made strength to their decrees that they decrees, make it even stronger than the Torah thing. So if that's what he means, you can't say that. As we turn to pay Dal Aleph, does Rav hold that if you make a condition against what the Torah says, the Tanai stays, the Tanai doesn't get nullified? But it was taught. If someone says to his so ona is halacha that if you sell movable properties, not real estate, but movable properties, if you sell it for within 1/6 of the price, whether it's you give him a good deal and it's less than a sixth cheaper than it should be, or more, or up to a sixth more than it should be, the sale is completely valid. If it's exactly 1/6, too high or too low, you have to make a refund, but the sale stands. So you have to sell it at the regular market price. And then the third case, if you sell it for more than a sixth, or I guess less than a sixth, then the sale is completely nullified. So that's what ona is. So if someone let's say Reuven was selling something to Shimon, and he was going to overcharge him or undercharge him, but he says, I'm making a condition that ona doesn't apply to me. This law of a sixth. Rav Amar Yeshlo lav ona. Rav says the halacha of ona still applies. Ushmuel Amar Ein Lo olav ona. And Shmuel says that there is no ona in that case. So we see that Rav says because ona is a law in the Torah, you can't make a condition to nullify it. So that's what we see clearly from Rav's opinion. So we see that when Rav says that we pass with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but not for his reason, if the reason of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is that if you make a decree, a condition for a business deal against halach in the Torah, your Tanai is nullified. And Rav argues and holds your condition is not nullified. But we have from this other statement that Rav holds in the case of ona is when you're overcharging for the item, your condition is nullified because you can't make a condition. So in regard to that statement, we know that Rav agrees with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So then what can Rav mean? Ella halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel the Amar Hamas Namashagatz v'Torah to know batal. So we could say that Rav is saying that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, that if you make a condition in a business deal, a contract against a halacha in the Torah, that condition is nullified because you can't go against what the Torah says. But not his reason. What does that mean? The ilu Rabbi Shimon Gamliel savar mesa yirashana. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds that if she dies, he will inherit the field from him. Rav savar mesa lo yirashana. And Rav holds that if he dies, she will not inherit. So basically what we're saying here is when he's passing Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he's passing like the reason that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, but he's arguing on Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in the actual halacha of this case. That's what we're suggesting now. So the Gemara says, so this follows his reason, but not his halacha. But that's not what Rav said. Rav says we pass like his halacha, but not his reason. if you said this, that he agrees with that you can't make a condition against the Torah, that's he's arguing with his reason, but not his halacha. Ella halacha Shimon Gamliel, the Amri Mesa Yerashana. So what's another possibility? We pass on Shimon Gamliel that if she dies, he will inherit the field, these fields, Balami Tame, but not his reason. The Elu Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Savar B'diraisa to know bata. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds if it's a Torah law, if you make a stipulation against a Torah law, it becomes nullified. Habad Rabbanan to know Kayam, but if it's a rabbinic rule, the condition, even though it's against the rabbinic law, the condition will stay. And if Rav holds, even if it's a law that's only a Dirabanan law, your stipulation would also become nullified. This follows Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's reason and his law for Rav Mosafu, and Rav is only adding to something that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel wasn't talking about, because Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was only talking about a Diraisa, and Rav is adding about the Rabbana. So this can't be the explanation either. Ella, so rather, what did Rav mean? Halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel to Amri Mesa Yerashana. We pass Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that if the wife dies, he will inherit this field. Balami Tameh, but not for his reasons. The Eler of Shimon Gamliel Savar Yushas about the Araisa, because Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds that the husband inheriting these fields from his wife is a Torah law. And whoever makes a condition in a contract, a business deal, against a law of the Torah, the condition gets nullified. Rav savar yushas about Rabbanan, but Rav holds that the husband inheriting these fields from his wife is only a rabbinic law. And Rav holds that the Chachamim made their decree strict like Torah, and that if someone was trying to get away, was trying to evade this takana d'Rabbanan, it's also nullified. So then we're asked, Rav Savar Yushas about Rabbanan, does Rav hold that the husband inheriting these fields is only a rabbinic law? But we learned in a Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says, Hayorish es ishto, if a man inherited fields from his wife, Yachzul name Yishpacha. When Yovel happens, he has to return the fields to her close relatives from her family. V'yanaka lahan min hadamim, and he has to give him a discount. And the Gemara discussed this Mishnah. My Kesavar, what does Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch hold? Kesavar Yushas about the Araisa. If the husband inherits the field on a Torah level, Amayaser, why does he have to give back the field for Yovel? It's his. The Eder Abanan, and if he only inherits it on a rabbinic law, Damim Ma'aviditayu. Who cares about that he has to give him a discount for the price of it? Money has nothing to do with it. The Amar Rav, and Rav explained that question. Leolam Kesavar Yushas about the Araisa. Rav held that Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch holds that the husband inheriting the wife's field is on a Torah level, and it's a case where that in this case the field that she gave to him was her family's cemetery. Mishum pagam mishpacha. So because so let's say they were family Shimoni, and he's family Ruveni. So if the Shimoni family burial plot is now owned by the Ruveni family, that's pretty embarrassing to the Shimoni family, because the Shimoni family plot should stay in the Shimoni family. So Mishum Pagam Mishpacha, because of the damage to the family's reputation of her family not having this anymore, Rabbanan Lishkol Tamei V'Lehadar. The Rabbanan said that he has to take money, meaning really it should be his, but because of the damage to the family's reputation, we force him to sell it back to them. But Eimer Rabbanan Lishkol Tamei Lehadar. So Rabbanan says that they have to pay money and he has to give it back to them. So it doesn't have to do with Yovel. Even if it's not Yovel, the Shimoni family wants to have the Shimoni family burial plot. So why does it mean that he has to give him a discount? To make hever ishto. It means he has to deduct the price for his wife's grave. Kidatanya, because we learned in the Braisa, Hamocher kivra v'derech kivra. Well, so we saw before that the husband has to bury his wife. So even though he's going to bury it in this field that is her family plot, but because she for whatever reason brought that, obviously with the consent of her father must have put it in there that she was bringing this piece of real estate into um, the marriage, uh, but because they don't have use of it because he had to bury her there, so he has to give him a discount of the value of the plot of where that his wife is buried in. Kidatanya, because we learned in the Brayso, Hamocher kivra v'derech kivra. If someone sold his kever or the path to his kever, Mamado umakom hefsedo, for the place for his mamad. So nowadays we don't have this, but part of the burial thing, they had some type of mimad, which was I guess they would give a hesped or something, and boyin b'nei mishpacha, his relatives can come, v'kover noso bal korcho, and they could bury him in that plot against the will of the person who bought it. Mishum pagam mishpacha, because it's a hit to the family's reputation if they can't be buried in their own family plot. So, so this is a different case. Someone sold his own burial plot from his own family cemetery, or he sold the place, this maimed along the way nearby where they would give the hesped. So you can't bury him without giving a proper hesped. So what do? So we say that because of we don't want the reputation of the family to be harmed, we still bury him in his family plot, or we still stop there and give a hesped for him at that place. So we see here that Rav is saying that the husband inheriting his wife's field is on a Torah level. So how could we explain that when Rav said the halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but not from his reason, that meant that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel held that that a husband inherits his wife on a Torah level, and Rav says it's only on a rabbinic level. Here, Rav explained Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka that it works on a Torah level. So we have a very simple answer. Rav l'tamed Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka kamar v'lei lo svirle. When Rav said that the husband inherits the field on a Torah level, he wasn't saying that that's his own opinion. He only said it in explanation of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka's opinion. But Rav himself holds that the husband inherits the wife only on a rabbanon level. But he agrees that not everyone agrees with him. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel doesn't agree with him, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka doesn't agree with him. Okay, Mishnah. Mi shemeis v'nech isho balcho v'yorshim. So someone died. He left a wife, so she has to get her ksuva. He has balchov. He borrowed money from people, so his estate owes money v'yorshim, and he also has heirs who want to get their money. So what happens? Who gets first? How do we work it out? And what if he had lent money to someone else, and so the estate can't, divvy up the assets yet because they need to get, because this loan that he had lent to someone has to be repaid, or milva b'yad or there's a loan that other people have. So Rabbi Tarfanom or Yinasul Koshel Shabaha, they're given to the weakest. Rashi says the Gemara is going to say what that means. So an important principle that we have to keep in mind here is that um, movable properties of orphans, meaning if someone died and his kids are minors, none of his movable properties are uh, are meshubah to pay off any debts. So Rabbi Tarfon is saying because he had lent money to someone else or had lent objects to someone else, so because they're not part of his estate right now, because he had lent it to someone else, then these items could get indebted to pay off a loan that he took. Meaning if he owed money to someone else, but he also had lent. So that's what we're saying. So according to Rabbi Tarfon, if he had lent money to someone else, we get that paid back. But then, now that the estate has that money, that could get paid to pay off his debt or to the ksuva. So even though in general movable stuff doesn't get taken out of the estate when there's yisomim, but in this case, because it wasn't in the estate, because it had been lent out to someone else, that these metaltalin, these movable properties or money, can get used to pay off a loan. Rabbi Kiva says, Ein Rachman Bedin. We can't judge based on Rachmanis. The law is the law. Eli Yinasul Yorshim. The property has to be given to the Yorshim, Shakul and Tzrich and Shavua. Because the other people, the wife, the widow, or the other creditor who wants the estate to pay back his law, they have, in this case, they would have to take a Shavua. Now, on a Torah level, there's 3 Shavuos on a Torah level. Shavuos HaShomrim, if someone, you were watching something for someone, and in certain cases, let's say that you were watching someone's animal and the animal got killed. A wolf came and ate the animal. So were you negligent? So depending on the level of shomer you were, you could make a shvua that you weren't negligent, and then you don't have to pay for the item. In this case, we said it was a sheep that the wolf ate. So and then the shvua moda b'miktsas and shvua eidos. If you don't want to take a shvua, you have to pay for it. So on the Torah level, a shvua is a way of, if you don't want to pay, you have to do the serious thing of a shvua, and you don't have to pay. But the Rabbanan made shvuos in certain situations where you take an oath and then you collect. So if this guy makes an oath that he lent money to this dead guy and he never got it paid, if he makes an oath, the estate could pay it. So the rabbinic oath that we're talking about is much different than the Torah oath, because the Torah oath, if you decline to take the oath, you have to pay. In this case, if you take the oath, then you'll get paid. If you don't take the oath, you're not going to get paid. The Ein Hayorshin Tzrichin Shavua. But the heirs, these orphans who are the heirs, they get money. They don't have to take any oath to get their portion. Next case, what if the person died and they had harvested some of his crop or harvested the whole crop, so it's no longer growing on the ground. So if it was still connected, then it's called karka, and we know what karka, how karka would work in this case. But because it was harvested, is it considered movable, or if it's not considered movable? So if it's considered movable, then you can't use it to pay off his debt because it goes to the orphan. So what's the status here? Whoever grabs it first gets it. So if the kids get it first, it's the kids. If someone who had lent money to the dead guy, he got it first, so then it's his as partial payment or full payment for the loan. And if the wife gets it first, so then it's partial payment or full payment for her ksuva. So Zachsa Isha Yoser Miksuvasa. So what if she took the wife got it first, but the amount that she took is worth more than her ksuva? Uvachov Yoser Achavo. Or what if the guy who had lent this dead guy money took this detached these harvested crops and it's more than what the loan was worth? So what happens with this extra money? Hamoser, what happens with the difference, the extra money that they weren't entitled to? Rabbi Tarfon Amar Yinasu Kosher Bahem. The weaker of the remaining people would get the difference. So according to Rabbi Tarfon, if the wife got it first, then and she got more than her tshuva was worth, then it would go to the guy who had made the loan. If the loan guy got it first and he had extra, then it goes to the wife for the ksuva. But it doesn't necessarily go to the yorshim next. Rabbi Kiva says, "Ein rachmin bedin." We can't have rachmanis in halacha. Ela yinasul yorshim. It all is given to the yorshim. Shakulin tzrichin shavua. Ve'ein hayorshim tzrichin shavua. Because the wife and the guy who made the loan, if they want to get money from the estate, they have to take a shavua that it's owed to them and they haven't got it yet, and the yorshim don't. So because the Rabbanan said they need a shavua, they have no right to it next to the yorshim who don't need to take a shavua. So it goes straight to the yorshim. Obviously, this what Rabbi Kiva is saying here is the same thing he said in the first case of the Mishnah. So Gemara, Lamali limisnei milva. Why does the Torah have to teach of a loan? Lamali limisnei pikadon. Why does it have to say if he deposited something to someone else? What's the difference between a loan and a pikadon? L'chora, it should be the same status. So the Gemara says tricha. We need the Mishnah to mention both of them. To eat hana milva, if it talk about a loan, but how come Rabbi Tarfon? Only if it's a loan, Rabbi Tarfon says that the person who lent can get paid back first. But how come Rabbi Tarfon? Only in that case, Rabbi Tarfon says that he gets it and not the Yorshim, Mishum de Milvalot, because a loan is given to be spent. So because it's given to be spent, it's not part of the estate. Meaning, so what the halacha means here, let's say that their father who passed away had borrowed $100. Even if he took the loan and he just put it in his bank account, it's not considered his $100. As soon as he got the loan, it's as if halachically, it's as if he spent it already, even though he didn't really spend it. Where this comes up a lot, or a different sugya, an important sugya where it comes up is, let's say Shmuel lent $100 to Rachel. And then instead, when Rachel was going to pay it back, Shmuel says, you don't have to pay back the loan. Instead of paying it back, you'll be mikudeshes to me. The $100 that I loaned you will be like I gave you a ring. It's for kedushin. So the halacha is no, because for kedushin he has to give her something. When he lent her the money, he gave her the money then, and it's considered spent. So he's not giving her anything at this time. So that's this principle that milvalot sanina. Even if the father who passed away still has in his possession, it's not considered it's not considered his. I mean, it's that he spent it. So just because it's in his bank account doesn't mean it's his, and it goes straight to the yorshim. Now, if a pikadon to isa be'ene, but if it was a pikadon, so he had, I don't know, a sheep that he sent to Yoni the shepherd to watch for him, or he had gold bars, and instead they didn't have safe deposit boxes back then, so he gave it to, I think there's a famous case of Rav Abba in Bava Basra, Nascha de Rav Abba. So he didn't have a safe deposit box, so he said, "Here's my gold bars, keep it safe for me." But the gold bars, the Rav Abba or whoever is holding on that has no right to do anything with those bars. They have to stay intact. So because they stay there, Ema Modile Rabbi Kiva, I might think that Rabbi Tarfon agrees with Rabbi Akiva that the gold bars are considered part of the estate, even though they're on someone else's property right now, because he asked someone to watch it for him. So therefore, it has to mention both milva and pikadon. So what if it would have mentioned only pikadon and not milva? The itanaha, and if it would have only talked about a deposit, a pikadon, and not talked about a loan, I would only say in that case of a pikadon, b'hakam Rabbi Akiva, only in that case Rabbi Akiva says it goes straight to the heir. But if it was a case of a loan, maybe Rabbi Akiva would agree with Rabbi Tarfon that a loan is not considered part of the husband's estate right now, so the heirs wouldn't get a loan. Tzricha, therefore, the Gemara needs to mention both cases, a loan and a pikadon, because a pikadon is considered halachically extant right now, and a loan is considered that it's not, that the money isn't here anymore. Even if we see the money, it's not considered that the father has it anymore, because he considers that he spent it right away, even if he didn't literally spend it.
In business, you have like a document, a loan document.
Yeah.
They have to be different.
I, I, I'm not sure. I think these cases where the deceased person, even if there were documents, because if there weren't documents, the kids would say, "How do we know that there was a loan? You're making it up." So I think even if there's a document, he would need to take a shvuah to get the money back. I think. I'm not positive. I'm not an expert in this right now. But on another level, though, these things are like a Class A claimant, a Class B claimant, and a Class C claimant. According to Rabbi Tarfon, the kids always get first dibs. Mila Koshal, so when Rabbi Tarfon says the weakest gets it, what does it mean, the weakest? Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina Amar, La Koshal Shebaraya, the one that has the weakest proof. So Rashi says the person who has the latest, that their document has the latest date on it, the most recent date.
Why would that be the weakest?
So because it has to do with the fact that if he had real estate that was sold, some of the creditors would potentially have rights to collect it from the real estate. So even if he had sold the real estate, the people with the star could seize it from the real estate. So if you have something from 2006 that had a lien on this property for it, and something from 2010 with the lien on it, who's going to get it first? The one with this document from 2006. So the one with the later date has to piggyback off of the other stuff. So that would be the weakest case, because it's less likely that there's going to be any real estate left to pay off that particular document. Rabbi Yochanan Amar L'Ksuvas Isha. The weakest always means the ksuva mishum china, because we want her to have this money so she's able to present herself nicely. So the way Rashi explains it, if the wife wouldn't get it, we saw last week that if for certain situations, the women would refuse to marry the men because they thought that they were never going to get the money. So Rabbi Yochanan says it goes to the ksuva so that she knows she's going to get it, so it will make her more she'll be willing to get married because she thinks she's going to get the money. Kitnai. But this machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina is really a machlokas tanaim. Rabbi Binyamin Omer. Rabbi Binyamin says l'koshel shabaraya, the one with the weakest proof, the most recently dated document, v'hu kasher, and that's the right thing to do. Rabbi Lazar Omer. Rabbi Lazar says ksuvas isha mishum china. The woman gets it for ksuva first because of chen. If she wouldn't be able to get it, she won't get married. Next, 2 dots. 2 lines up from the bottom of Pei Daled Amar Aleph. If he left harvested fruit. So Rabbi Tarfon says that the weakest gets, or Rabbi Kiva says it goes to the fruits. Rabbi Kiva, my area Moser. So according to Rabbi Kiva, why is it talking about surplus, extra? Everything should go to the heirs. Kulunami diyorshin havu. All of it belongs to the yorshin. It's all part of the estate, and then sometimes they'll pay some of it off for other debts that the estate left. So the Gemara says, in Hachinami, it's true. There is no extra produce when it goes to the heirs. The ID to Amar Tarfon Moser, but since Rabbi Tarfon mentioned Moser, if the woman got it first and she had more than what her ksuva was worth, and she has to then share it with the guy who made the loan, or if the guy with the loan got it first and he collected more than what his loan was for, he has to share it with the ksuva with the woman. We mentioned that there's an extra in the case of Yorshim, but it doesn't make sense that there's extra for Yorshim. Anything that he owns all goes to the Yorshim. Okay, Peidalat Amad Aleph. Rabbi Akiva, Tfisala Mahanya Klau. Does grabbing it not help at all? We say possession is 9/10 of the law. So even though that's not a real law that says it, but it's a true concept in halacha. It's a true concept in civil law. So why does Rabbi Kiva say that the fact that the wife got it has no significance? The fact that the guy who made the loan got it has no legal significance. The fact that they're holding on to it should have legal significance. Why does Rabbi Kiva say no? It all goes to the heirs first. Amrav Nachman v'hu shetafas mechayim. So Rabbi Kiva holds that tefisa works if somehow the wife had collected some of her husband's property before he died. But once he died, Rabbi Kiva holds, no, it all goes to the Yorshim. Rabbi Tarfon, the Manchehecha. According to Rabbi Tarfon, where was this fruit sitting? The fact that the Yorshim aren't necessarily going to be the first to get it. Because if it's on their father's field, then it's their field and it's on their property. So someone could just go on to property and take stuff on your property. There is a principle. I don't know if it holds here, but kinyan chazaka, like if something's on your property can acquire it for you. So from the fact that it's on the Yorshim's property, does that? I don't see Rashi saying this here, but doesn't it become theirs automatically? So how could their mother or their husband's wife or this guy who had given a loan to the father, how could they ever seize this, grab some of this produce? Rav Shmuel Dami Travayu. Rav and Shmuel both said, because the fruit was piled up in the public thoroughfare. So because it wasn't on their field, so their field didn't acquire it automatically for them. Avab simta lo. But if it's in a simta, then the wife, the husband's wife, or the guy who made the loan isn't able to take it. And what's a simta? Rashi says simta is as a protruding corner which is near Rosh Hashanah, and people who want to deal with each other or to make business deals with each other or want to speak quietly, they go to the corner and that's where they talk. So Rabbi Tarfon says if it's in this place, then it's considered the Yisomim's stuff. So Simta, even though it's in the Rishus Harabim, but it doesn't have a full status of Rishus Harabim. Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish Dami Travayu. Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish both said that feel of a Simta, even if it's in a Simta, the Balchov or the wife have the right to go take the produce from over there. Don't die any Rabbi Tarfon. So there was a case, and the Dayanim judge, like Rabbi Tarfon, and the Balchov who sees the stuff, the dayan let him keep it. But Reish Lakish, he reversed the decision. So in general, when there's a machlokes in Rabbi Kiva and someone else, we pass to Rabbi Kiva. So when this dayanim, whoever it was, passed like Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Reish Lakish says, no, that's a very bad mistake. It's an egregious mistake that we're able to. So when dayanim make a mistake, if it's something that any kid should have known, then then the case could be reversed. So Rabbi Tarfon was saying, excuse me, Reish Lakish was saying this was such a big mistake. What the dayanim paskin gets completely undone. This was such a big mistake. Rabbi Yochanan, Asisik Shal Torah. So Rabbi Yochanan says you kept Rabbi Akiva's din like a Torah law, because if they make a mistake in a Torah law, you could reverse the judgment of a dayan. But if it's not a Torah law, you can't necessarily reverse you can't say change once the dayan paskin. That's the din unless they forgot a pasuk. So let's say that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish are arguing this point. Tamar savar tabid var mishnah chozer. Reish Lakish says if you paskin into something which is explicitly in a mishnah, the dayanim are able the dayanim can change their ruling because they made such a big mistake. Umar savar tabid var mishnah eno chozer. And Rabbi Yochanan holds, even though it's a Devar Mishnah, it's something that's a Mishnah and the Dayanim should have known, you cannot reverse a mistake even if it's a Devar Mishnah. So maybe that's Machotin Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. So the Gemara says, Lo, the Kuliyama Tabid Var Mishnah Chozer. Even Rabbi Yochanan agrees that if the Dayan made a mistake from a halacha that's in a Mishnah, they have to fix their psak. But in this case, they're arguing on the following point. Rabbi Yochanan holds we only pass to Rabbi Akiva when it's from a colleague, but not from his Rebbe. But Rabbi Tarfon was one of the Rabbeim of Rabbi Akiva. So when it's a machlok between Rabbi Akiva and his Rebbe, we don't pass to Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Yochanan holds we don't pass to Rabbi Akiva in this case. Umar savar halacha filame Rabbo, and Reish Lakish holds where we pass to Rabbi Akiva. We even pass to Rabbi Akiva. He's arguing on one of his Rabbeim, like Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Tarfon. The names of in the Haggadah. When they were sitting, and they were talking about about Sipur Tzias Mitzrayim all night until the student said that it was time to say Kriya Shema. So Rabbi Akiva was the student of all of those Chachamim. The Ibai Sema, or we could say the Machlok between Rabbi Akiva and Reish Lakish is on a different point. Tukul Yama Lachak Rabbi Akiva Mechaver V'Lamei Rabbo. Even Rabbi Yochanan agrees. Excuse me. Even Rabbi Tarfon agrees. Even Reish Lakish agrees we only pass with Rabbi Akiva when it's from a colleague, but we don't pass with Rabbi Akiva when he's arguing on his Rebbe. But this is what they're arguing about. Mar Sava, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbo Hava. The machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is, was Rabbi Tarfon a Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva or not? Rabbi Yochanan held Rabbi Tarfon was a Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva. Mar Sava Chavera Haya. But Reish Lakish holds that Rabbi Tarfon was not Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe, he was just a colleague. V'ibay Sema, or a third possibility, the Kuliyama Chaverahu. Everyone agrees that Rabbi Tarfon was not Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe, they were only a colleague. And this is what Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish are arguing about. Mar Savar Hilchos Halacha Itmar. Reish Lakish held is that we always pass the Rabbi Akiva against the colleague. Mar Savar Matin Itmar. But Rabbi Yochanan holds we don't necessarily pass the Rabbi Yochanan, but we would tend to lean towards passing to Rabbi Akiva, but it's not such an absolute. So if it was absolute, Rabbi Yochanan would agree you cannot change the judgment. But Rabbi Reish Lakish holds it's an absolute that we always pass like Rabbi Akiva. So it was such an egregious mistake that they made that it could be flipped. Previous Rabbi Yochanan, there was a relative of Rabbi Yochanan, and there was a similar case. So someone wanted to collect a loan that he had made to this relative of Rabbi Yochanan who died. Taf was part of the Yasmi Misimta. So he found a cow that was owned by the estate. So it's now owned by the Yomer. And it was in the Simta. It was in this corner in the Rishus Rabbim. And we said, according to Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, you're even allowed to seize it from the Simta. It's not considered on the property of the Yisomim. Also, Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. So they came to Rabbi Yochanan to ask him what the halacha is. When he sees the cow, was that a legal seizure or was it illegal seizure and the guy has to return the cow back? Amar lahu shaber tafsu. He said to them, you seized it properly. You had a right to take it from there. Also, Kamed Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Then they went to Rabbi Reish Lakish and asked them, Amar lahu zilo adar. He said, go return it because you weren't allowed to take it in this case. Also, Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. Then they went back to Rabbi Yochanan and told him what Reish Lakish said. Amar lahu ma'aseh shekenegdi chalgalai. What can I do? Someone who is equal stature to me is arguing on me. Okay, we'll leave it here.